Alright, good day people, and welcome today to AGIT Codeworks, where we make complex coding tasks look really simple. And today we are going to be talking about responsive web design. Here. Now this is a very important one. First of all, let me give us a background on responsive web design. Responsive web design basically has to do with, from the image we have here in this background, it has to do with making your web applications look good on a PC, a tablet, mobile phone, or any other device size. Okay, so that means that we are looking at how to make a web page adjust to the size of a mobile phone, or the size of a tablet, or the size of a PC, depending on the one on which it was launched. Okay, now this is very useful on a couple of levels. Number one, as on my personal experience as a developer, when you want to migrate a page you built or an app you built on web technology to, let's say, a mobile app, that means I developed a web page, for example, on this device, and later on I want to convert it and maybe put it on Play Store and then make it a mobile app. Okay, so it can run on this device seamlessly. It's a lot easier if I had made the site responsive when it was on this device, that is a tablet. Okay, we'll see more of that in the demonstration, and we're going to practically go through it. But basically what responsive web design is about is basically making your website, web page, or web app respond to various device or screen sizes. As it's obvious now, we live in a world where people access the web with various devices. Okay, now first of all, before we go into the practical, let's first of all look at some key points we need to understand to be able to dive into this. I'm assuming your web design skills is intermediate, but I'll still be approaching this tutorial from a very basic level where just anybody could understand it. And by the way, responsive web design is something every developer, if not now then later, will come across. Okay, because once your website or your web app gains a lot of popularity, people would always want it on a device like this, while not denying them their access when they are on their regular desktops or laptop computers. Okay, first point we need to understand is something called divs. A div. Okay, if you are not new to web design, divs should be really a simple concept you already understand. But for the sake of perspective on this particular tutorial, a div is basically a way to create sections in your web application. It's a way of dividing your web page into various sections. Okay, typical example, this could be my page. Okay, and I want a div here, it's a section, another one here, it's another section, then one here being an other section. So these are three divs helping me to lay out my site a bit more properly, and this is very useful in UI UX design, very useful in web application development. We'll see more of that. It also helps to divide components or contents of your web page into maybe rows and columns, footers and headers, and so on and so forth. So take note, I repeat, it's just a way to divide your web page into sections. All right, the next concept we'll talk about here is something we'll call a viewport. Okay, now what's a viewport? So basically, a viewport is actually the visible part of your web page. The visible part of your web page. That's basically what it is, which will have a different size and look different depending on the device. So viewports will also be put into perspective when we start building our responsive web page. Then lastly, media queries. Media queries. Now, what's a media query? Okay, a media query is basically a part of your code that enables your page to look different on one device and also different on another device. Okay, a typical example, let's look at this simple example. Okay, what we have here is a simple All right, what we have here is a simple restaurant, okay, a web page for a restaurant. Now you see what it looks like. It's on a PC. Now let's just simulate and resize it to a mobile device size. Now observe, you see the difference? All these components were lined up, stacked upon one another, making it look really sleek, smooth, and gives a user an awesome experience when they are on their phone. But when they are on their PCs, observe also, so these images that were stacked on each other has been separated into a row of 3 columns. All right, so basically media queries enable us sorry so media queries enable us to get this particular functionality on our web page or our web application. So all right, so haven't seen how this works. So that's what media queries help us do. What we are going to be doing today for our own practical will be building a simple mini online store. Okay, a simple mini online store. From the initial visibles here, this is just a basic online store, but what we are interested in is the responsiveness, how to make it adjust, just like the restaurant store, just like the restaurant website I just showed you guys. Sorry. So what we are basically going to achieve is this: when it's in a mobile device, when it's launched on a mobile device, what we have is this. So you notice it's stacked upon each other now, and then with these lines that were invisible before, visible now, separating each of the products. Okay, so that's what we are going to be achieving. All right, if we've understood all the concepts I explained here with responsive web design, divs, viewports, and media queries, let's cut the chase now and let's get coding. All right, first of all, this is my Notepad++. This is my editor, and like I always mention, any editor would be okay to go through this practical. Sublime is perfect, Notepad++ is okay, VS Code is awesome, but I'll basically use Notepad++ because of the clear interface. The white background gives my code a bit of a contrast, makes it a lot easier for channel subscribers to follow the code. All right, now let's start. So what I have here first of all is the page I am designing. This is the folder, responsive web design folder. I have my products here already, so I named them accordingly. Let's make this a bit larger. So this is first product, I call it p1.png, p2.png, p3.png, p4.png, p5.png, and p6.png. Now these are the products for our online store we are going to build and then make it responsive also. So let's create our first okay, let's start with the initial page. So I save this my file as, so save it as, so I go straight to the responsive web design folder. Then let's just call it index.html. All right, now that we have this, first of all, on the basic level, we are going to start. So just code along now, follow me step by step. We're going to build this from scratch till we have this same and exact page we are looking at over here. All right, I close this off and I close this off. All right, so first of all, we have our HTML tag. Like I said, if you had any intermediate skill set already in web design, this should be really simple. So I have my HTML tag, and here we have the head tag, and then our body tag. All right, okay, this is a simple page. Really empty, nothing on it. First thing we have to do is this. Now, I mentioned something about a viewport. Whenever you are building a page and you intend to use that web page as a mobile app later, or intend to also launch it properly on a mobile device, first thing you have to do is this, our meta tag. where we give the browser instructions on the viewport. You remember the viewport from the initial slide where I talked about the viewport being the visible part of your web application. Okay, so we have a meta tag here. Oops, I said meet. So meta tag. Now this tag is for giving the page instructions, first instructions. So the name of this meta tag is going to be viewport. So it's a viewport. Now content. Okay, now we are going to be telling the content would contain the size and the initial scale of our viewport. So we say width. The width is equals to device width. So I'm saying the width, the width is the device width. Okay, width equals to then device dash width, then a comma. You say initial scale equals 1. Okay, initial scale is going to be returning the initial dimension of whatever page you are launching my website in. Now, most people ignore this particular line while developing web pages, but if you intend to build a website that is mobile friendly, tablet friendly, and also PC friendly, then you will have to add this to your head tag. That is the meta tag. Okay, now next thing, let's put a simple header. Let's just call it H1. So we just say the name of this our cool store will be Egypt Codeworks Cyber Store, version 2.0 or what have you, because we intend to have it as an app later, so we have to blend it up in versions, so and also make it respond to mobile interfaces. Okay, all right, now very important. So the divs is our next stop now. Now this is where you have to pay very close attention, because when these divs open up and close, web pages look extremely complex after they are developed. But if you understand the structure from the ground up, it's usually a lot easier. So I have my first row. Now this row represents the first line in the page. So I create a div for that. That's the first line. Div. Okay, this is my first div. This app is going to have 2 rows. Of course, it could have more, but we're going to have 2 rows. So let's create the first div for the first row and then the second row. Okay, so this is the first row, open and close, second row, open and close. Remember, divs help me divide my web page into sections. So class, give it a class. Class is row. Okay, so class being row. Remember, if you don't understand what I am doing here, let me explain a bit. Basically, this row is going to be a way for our CSS file to style these 2 rows. It could be ID, it could be class, but because multiple divs are going to be using it, class is better. So just code along and let's do this. So row, this is our first row, the class is called row. Here too, this will be also called row. So we have 2 rows now. Okay, now remember, online stores are usually divided in rows and columns. So we need columns inside here too, right? So we're going to have, so from the structure of the page, it's usually 2 rows and then 3 columns, right? Okay, from what I demonstrated before, you would notice that my web page looked like this, and then after the heading cyber store, we have first row here, okay, second row like this. So that's what's represented by these our 2 divs. Okay, then what about the columns? So we now have these columns are like this. So that means one product will be here for a column, another product, another column, third product, another column, then the 4th, 5th, 6th, and so on and so forth, depending on how long our page is and how many products on the list. So this is a row, this is another row, all containing 3 columns. Okay, so that's what we are designing here, just for clarity. So we have this div here for 1 row, the next div here, another row. Okay, so now inside this row we have 3 columns, like I said. So another div goes in here. Okay, div, close div. So this is one. Okay, it's going to be called a column, right? So this is a row containing one column for now. So we add the other remaining columns, second column, third column. Please let's follow the structure. This is the row, opens here, closes here. One column, two column, three columns inside it. The same will go also for my second row. So I copy just these columns from here, just these columns copied. Then inside this row div, I place this. So what I have now is rows and columns, but they are empty for now. Okay, now this is where our product images now come in play. So I'm going to place each of those products in the columns, right? So first of all, I might want the columns, one simple style property, just a background color, right? Background color would be, let's just make it white, so that when we place products, white backgrounds usually fit products in an online store. Well, that's a personal preference though. Of course, after you've understood the code, you can basically change all your styling into what you would have them to be. All right, so remember, from the location of my code, see where the pictures are. So file, open, they are all in a folder here called products. So this is picture 1, P2, P3, P4, P5, P6, all in PNG format. All right, so the first image goes here. So we have an image tag in the first column, img src. So please, the img is the image tag for adding image to web pages. Okay, now the src is supposed to be telling us where can this image, where should this div find this image we are talking about. So I would say the image is in the products folder, inside it p1.png. okay, all right, we're going to give it a width and a height. All the products basically should have the same width and the same height for uniformity. I think that's a no-brainer, but I just have to mention that. So each of our images, our online store images, will be 270 pixel, 70 pixel with a height of 250 pixel. Okay, so this is one column taken care of. Okay, then under it we are going to have the name of the product and the price and so on and so forth. So we are going to just make it a paragraph. So a paragraph tag here and a paragraph tag here. So Ctrl D to duplicate the line. This would be the name of the product. So we called it Xbox 360 or what have you. We'll give it an ID. The ID is going to be, let's just call it text. All right. Then the price, we'll give it an ID. The ID is going to be price, and then let's say it's going to be $980. So this is what one product looks like. Okay, this is one div, okay, containing an image, a text box, a paragraph tag here for the name. Let's turn this into, let me make this a H. Let's just say H5. Header 5. All right. Still the same if you use paragraph, but let's make it H5 to make this stand out a bit. So this will be a H5. This is one product. So I'm going to add the other products now. And because I'm a bit too lazy to type out all this one by one, I will explain just using this first div, then I'll copy the rest over. So let me recap. This is our row tag. This is the first row, the first line in the online store, containing this column, open and close, and then this column. Okay, inside the first column we have an image, which is our products folder /p1.png. that will be this exact image here, p1.png. okay, added here. The width is going to be 270 pixel. The height is going to be 250 pixel. Underneath it is going to have the name of the product, which is Xbox 360, and then the price, which is going to be $980. So I'll just copy this and adjust inside the column tag. I copy this, so the next product is this, and the next product is this. Okay, so I'll paste it into, so the first row is taken care of. So for that first row, we're going to have P1 as the first, P2 as the second one, and then P3 as the third image. Okay, now according to our products here, P2 is our LG TV, P3 is a PlayStation 5. So that would mean we would, this is the second picture, so it's basically the LG television, right? Let's say this is going to cost $780. The next one is the PlayStation 5. Well, I'm a huge fan of PlayStation 5, so I'll just make it quite more expensive than the Xbox. So just make it $1,200. Okay. So this is our first line. Our first row is taken care of now. Now the next row, okay, the next row, which is at the top here, will look just like this one. So I could copy this. So apparently I typed the second row first, but really there's no difference. I could just copy and then paste at the top and then adjust. So this is the next row here. Paste it. Okay, as complex as this is looking now, but please observe the structure. This row opens here, closes here, containing these columns 1, 2, and 3. The second row starts here, containing first div, which is a column, second column, third column, and then the row ends here. Please understand the structure, very important. Okay, so for this one, this will now be our P4 product. This would be P5. This will be P6. Please, any arrangement you want for your product is up to you. Just be sure you understand the code. Okay, so P4, 5, and 6, it's going to be 4, 5, 6 HP laptop, Dell laptop, and a Samsung phone. So here we have it. So we say HP Pavilion. How many else do we have? Okay, HP Pavilion. This would be a Dell G7. It's actually a gaming PC. Okay, here we go. So the last one was what was the last image there? All right, a Samsung phone. Okay, so this is Samsung blah 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 M15. I wonder what the model is. Let's just call it M15. Okay, so now here we go. We have our page, but it's not yet styled to look proper, like a proper web page, and also to be responsive, which is the whole idea of this particular tutorial. So copy the full file path to clipboard here, or just run the file, anyone. So this is what we have now. Not yet styled. Not yet styled. So this is what it looks like. Okay, the images are there, we are good, but it's not yet styled to look like an online store. Neither does it respond to a mobile device. So but we have something up already at least. All right, now let the styling begin. Okay, first things first, let's get this to the center. So align property for the H1 tag. Align property says center, right? Effect, this comes way to the center. Okay, now we're going to get our CSS file, and then we're going to write our media queries. The media query is actually at the center of responsive web design. Okay, it can be used to make some components appear on a mobile device, disappear on a PC, or be visible in a PC and disappear on a mobile device. Something else we are going to add here, the lines that are going to divide the products when they are on a mobile device, we are going to add them. So that will be our HR tag. Please, under the columns, right under the column here, take note, put the HR property. Okay, let's give it a class. Let's just call it, no, whatever, let's call it a line. Let's say line. Okay, now this is going to be, this is a strike through line across the page, helps show some visible divisions between components. So I'm going to copy this. Please take note, right under the column div, paste this here. Under this column div here also, we'll put this here. Okay, nothing here. Remember the column again, this is a column, so right under here, put this line. Right under here, we put this line, and then the last column. Okay, let's just put it here. Now this is a line that strikes through across the page. It's not going to look so good here, right? So you see, there's a line striking through each of the pages. All right, now when we're going to make this look like a proper online store, we're going to make those lines visible on a PC and invisible on a mobile device. All right, it's CSS time. So let's create our CSS file. So I'm going to create a new file here, save it as, so save as. In the same location, I can create a folder for our CSS if I want to. Basically, it can also be in the same location, but to keep things pretty divided up properly. So inside here, inside the CSS folder, I have a file called style.css. That's our CSS file. All right. So in the same location as my page, I have a CSS folder called style.css. All right. So here we go. So now let's style the page. All right, the first thing we'll add is an asterisk. Okay, open and close a styling box. So this is going to be, now the first component we'll talk about is something called box sizing. Box sizing is very useful when you don't want padding and margins to distort what you've already put up as your layout. So box sizing basically, if you set it to the property border box, there's a lot I could say about this particular styling, but what we have to understand is that this particular box sizing property, which we set to border box, is basically going to set up each of those rows and columns without letting the padding and the margins to distort the settings. It basically just accounts for it automatically on its own. Okay, whether you understand that or not, just put this code. All right, box sizing. That's the first thing. Then next thing is this text here. Remember our H5 has an ID text, while the price has an ID price. So let's just size that. You could leave that as it is, but since we already have it there, so our text is basically the text under the images, which is the product names. So let's just give it a font size. Font size becomes 20 pixels. Display is inline. Then the font width is bold. Please, this has nothing to do with responsiveness, but we are just adding it to make the page look a bit, you know. So the next would be our price. That's the price under it. Is going to be font size. We say 20 pixels for the font size. Then the font weight is going to be bold as well. Let's just give it a color. Let's go crimson. One good thing with VS Code is that it would show me the options for the colors, but let's just take crimson, sorry, for the price. Okay, then we are going to say line, we're going to make the line disappear. So we say for the line property, we say display none. Okay, remember our class line, right? So this is the class line, the line that strikes through across the page. So the line is invisible right now. So now the next thing we have, now this is where responsiveness comes in. Now our column, so dot column is the styling for our column class. Remember the columns we created. So for the column, let's first of all say float, the float property. So float left, so it flows to the left. Width, the width is going to take up 33.33% of our screen. Okay, now specifying width in percentage is one major aspect that enables a page to be responsive on a mobile device, because right now every percentage simply makes it calculate based on the size of whatever screen it has. So therefore the percentage will also vary in different devices, which will lead to an adjustment also of the size of our column width. So initially the 3.3% is used. Okay, now padding, please, padding has to do with internal spacing. So there will be 10 pixel spacing between these columns. Okay, then the height, remember I said you could set this to whatever suits you. Okay, but for the sake of practice and for us to get the right perspective, just follow me and code along. Okay, then text align, I would like this to be centered, so we say center. So the column takes its properties from a more centered angle. Okay, next property we will specify is something called, so the row class, then we have the after, so we say row after. Now what this has to do with is it specifies something that should be added after each row. Add this. So what will it contain? Content empty. But if you wanted something to appear after each row, maybe a space that will be repeated after each of the row, okay, you would add the content here, but we don't want anything there. So display, so the row is going to display like a table. It's going to display like it's a table. Okay, this shouldn't be an equal sign, sorry, it should be a colon. All right, so okay, good. So now we have clear both. Clear both is useful when it works well with the floating property, so it clears if there's excess spacing that's not supposed to be there. All right, so then now the most important part, media queries. We talked about media queries. Now because we know that this page will not be launched on a mobile device, on a PC all the time, so what we want to do here with mobile query, we're going to program CSS to say, okay, let me use this different sizing whenever I observe that the device width has gone as small as 600 pixels. Then we'll need a media query. How do you add a media query? Now observe this. Media queries. Media query is basically the major aspect of this particular tutorial we are meant to pay attention to. So at media, I'm specifying a special media property for screens smaller than 600 pixels. Screens as big as 600 pixels and downwards, so to say. So I will say screen. Okay, I will say screen and the and property. Then I'm going to take a brace, an open and close parenthesis, and then a code block. Now what's in this parenthesis now is going to be max width. I'll explain this shortly. 600 pixels. So basically this is very important. So what I'm saying now is the style I'm about to write here is only applicable when the device with maximum width size gets as small as 600 pixels or less. Okay, that's what's going to give us the mobile responsiveness and the effect we are looking for. Okay, so now what happens when the screen size is less than 600 pixels? The column we'll change its sizing here from the one we set initially to width 100%. I am trying to keep this whole thing as simple as possible. This is the simplest way to get a responsive design out quickly. Okay, then line. Remember the lines are supposed to be invisible right now. It's still visible now because we've not yet linked the CSS file. Okay, if we link the CSS file, the CSS will take effect. So it hasn't taken effect because we have not yet linked this page to this file, which we'll do shortly. Okay, so now the line is going to, from display none, is going to be display block. So that makes it visible now. All right, so next we are going to now link this CSS file now to this our page. All right, let's do that. So that would be in our head tag, we create a link rel equals to style sheet. So the file being referenced is style sheet. That's what this means. Then href is saying, hey, where do I find this file? So I'll say there's a folder called CSS. Inside it, there's a file called style.css. To verify, this is the folder CSS. Inside here, style.css. My products are also here. All right. Now let's see what we get. All right, so the last thing we'll do before we see what our page has is okay, this inline, let's get it out of the way. We would not be needing this. We would not be needing that, so just get it out, because it would make the text and the image be in the same line. So I just got it out. So let's see what we have. Let's refresh our page and see what we get. So copy full file path to clipboard, launch your Google Chrome, paste here, and then we run this, and wow, here we go. We now have this looking like a proper online store. Of course, you can add other things to your styling, but the main thing we have achieved there is responsiveness. Now watch, let's make this page a bit smaller than a PC. Let's make it like someone launched it on a mobile device, so it would look like this. So you see what we get. So observe, this is what this page would look like. It looks pretty cool now, right? And then guess what? The lines appear, dividing it into segments. But on the full screen, that is when it's launched on a PC, the lines don't appear because it would not fit this layout. So that's what we have. If you have any questions, you can drop them on the comment sections below. So this is how to make a web page responsive, which is pretty smooth and pretty easy to migrate web pages to mobile apps when developed like this. Thanks, and do have a wonderful rest of the day. And as always, don't forget to subscribe if you found this video useful. Thanks and bye.